Hey, this is River Dave again. Welcome to my garage. We're sitting in my 21 Cheyenne. We're actually lucky enough on this Tuesday night to have Brian from B&D Marine. He's a very influential person in the marine industry. He's also more known as the guy behind the guy. He's the guy that always comes up with the concepts that all the popular guys steal from. Brian, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Tell us a little bit about B&D Marine.
We started B&D Marine in 1990, and it's been a family-owned business since the day one. And before that, you interested in that?
Yeah.
Before that, I was actually worked for John Kaiser of Alpha Marine. He kind of brought me up through the industry from the time I was 17 years old, and went out on our own in 1990, and have been going pretty good ever since.
Now, I think it's important to touch on what you talked about earlier. You talked about the family business. What does B&D stand for?
Truthfully, when I started the business, I have a daughter named Danielle, and I have a son named Dane, and a daughter named Nicole. And my middle initial is D, and I couldn't go wrong with B&D. I knew that, sooner or later one of them would be part of it.
I always figured it was Brian and Dane, but I guess that was wrong. Sorry, Dane. That's what.
No, and that's pretty much what it's morphed into.
Now, you've shared with me over the years, now granted I wasn't allowed to share it publicly, but you've shared with me some very cool projects, including modifying some intake manifolds and some engines. Why don't you talk about that for a minute?
The intakes that you're speaking of is we took some 525 or 500 EFIs, basically the same intakes, years ago, and we machined the top out of them, welded a plate on them, and put dual throttle bodies on because the engines just don't get enough air. And it seems like whatever you can take and modify and make work better, you're always going to get better performance out of it. We understand how engines work, and we understand that there's an air pump, and you need to get air in and air out, and we needed more air, and so we made some 502s, took those intakes, put 2 throttle bodies on top, sequential fire fuel injection, made 630 horsepower out of a 502.
I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why I like Brian. Brian and I have a shared history. I am an aerospace machinist. As it turns out, Brian, his background is an aerospace machinist. And one of the reasons why I like his shop, more so than most of the other shops, is everybody else, they wait for other people to engineer things or to come up with a...
Sorry.
That would be... That was a water, ladies and
I'll
gentlemen. This interview is not done over cocktails. He actually is professional. But one of the things that most shops do is they wait for other people to engineer things or to be ingenuitive. Brian goes out on his own. He will take intake manifolds. He'll remachine them. He does things with jets. He does things with cylinder heads. He does things with everything because he's a machinist. Guys like us like to tinker. He'll throw it on a dyno, see if it works. If it doesn't work, you throw it in the trash, you start over again. Brian, why don't you tell us just for a minute a little bit about your aerospace background, and then I want to jump back into B&D.
For, I would say about 3 years, I was an aerospace machinist, and I did computer controlling and programming for CNC lathes and mills, a lot of F-16 parts, and we hold pretty tight tolerances, and you learn about surface speed and chip and all that control, which you understand.
How would you say that has improved you as a marine shop, other than, well, actually knowing how to make things now?
The details. The caring about tolerances and the caring about making something absolutely perfect is what makes a difference in our industry. And guys say, well, that's good enough. It's not good enough. And if you really care about it and you really spend the time and you make it perfect, it's not going to come back and it's going to work better.
Now, one of the things that most of the people on the boards don't know, they say that you cannot build a Bravo with 600 horsepower plus and it will live. And I am here to tell you that Brian can build you a Bravo with 600 horsepower plus and it will live. We actually have one of our own members, GS321. He has a 21 Cheyenne just like this with a twin turbo motor. It's not even a Bravo XR drive, it's a Bravo drive. And it lived up until very recently, which is almost 10 years. Brian built that drive. I'm sure you're not going to share with us the trade secrets, but you want to tell us a little bit what
Sure.
separates you from the rest on the drive building?
Yeah, I can give you the basics. We actually built that whole boat. We built the motor, we built the drive, and it's a Bravo 1. And the bottom line is we've come up with a way of assembling Bravos, whether they're XRs or Bravo 1s, that we know what causes failures and we know what makes them live. And And it's really about, you know, Mercury gives you a guideline of what they say a Bravo should have as far as backlash and rolling torque and stuff. And we kind of use that and we change it. And we detail the gears. We spend a lot of time grinding on gears. We spend a lot of time setting the backlash. And if we put a set of gears in and the backlash is different, and then we go 180 and we get a different backlash, then the gears come out and put another set of gears in until we get a consistent backlash. We spend a lot of time knowing, and it's trial and error. You know, you take the gears apart after a year and you find out what's failing on the gear, and you change it, and you make modifications for it. And that goes back to the aerospace background, where we look at it and we say, okay, this isn't good enough. We need to make it better.
So a lot of trial and error, a lot of R&D. Brian's been around a long time. He's also behind a lot of infamous boats. He maintained Photoglow's boat, the infamous 42 Fountain. God knows Jay ran that thing with his tongue hanging out, and he managed to make it live. It's a great shop. If you get a chance, go by and check it out. Brian, throw in the contact information before we go.
We're in El Monte, California. Phone number is 626-443-3721. And that's.
Or you can reach him on my website. It's B&D Marine.
Yeah.
And his son Dane is a cool guy as well. We'll probably interview him tomorrow. But in any event, make sure you check out his shop. He does a lot of amazing work. God knows he doesn't get enough credit on it. That's partially my fault, and I intend to rectify that into the future. But great friend, absolutely great mechanic. I highly recommend him. Brian, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.